No one. Thank you. Calling this meeting to order. We're going to observe a few ground rules for conduct of the meeting. No one may speak until granted the floor. CB11 members, if you wish to speak about board business or wish to make a comment or a motion, please raise your hand and wait to be recognized. To raise your hand through Zoom, click the participants icon and you will find the raise hand function there. If you have technical difficulty, click the chat icon and relay your difficulty to the staff. Members should not engage in a back and forth discussion. The chair will recognize the next person to speak. The chat function should not be used for CB11 business or questions about agenda topics. All such remarks should be made on the record. When recognized, chat should only be used to alert us to any technical difficulties that you're having or state in writing information like an email address that was already stated aloud on the record during the meeting. When a member is given the floor to speak, I will identify you and you can unmute yourself so that you may speak. Please keep your questions and comments succinct and germane to the discussion. Members of the public, if you have a question or comment about the subjects on the agenda, please raise your hand and wait to be recognized. Angel, would you kindly call the roll?
Sure thing. Jessica Elliott.
Present.
David Giordano.
Present.
Nelson Oramo. Hold on one second. She might be in there.
She's the same number calling in from the last meeting.
Mm-hmm. Nelson.
Present. Thank you.
Thank you. Jose. Jennifer. Stephanie. Xavier.
Present.
Giselle.
Present.
You have a quorum.
Wonderful. Okay. As I wait for a response back from Valerie Mason from Community Board 8, our agenda was predominantly to focus around their experience and how she worked very diligently with keeping the MTA accountable during the phase 1 process. And I apologize also too for the background noise. We have a new addition to the family, a little puppy. So who's not very happy at the moment. Apologies for so she was going to present many of the things they learned, for example, the noise pollution, the dust pollution, how they coordinated and worked together with, as we had discussed previously at executive committee meetings, the subway station stop working groups and how they coalesced with different CBOs, tenant associations, et cetera, and so on to galvanize around the issues affecting not just that local area, but also the entirety of the project. Up to our neighborhood at 96th Street. If she doesn't show up, I'm going to still move us along because there's still a lot of work we have to get done. I have had conversations with Angel and with Jessica, and one of the big things I'd like us to really examine and break away from this meeting is to focus on the subway station stop working groups. This is something we can do over the summer and then bring back to this larger body. And during this process, if you have questions or you have recommendations or ideas, I would greatly appreciate if you'd share them. This is part of a dialogue that will help us generate a more productive outcome and one that needs to outlast many of our tenures on this board. So the first thing is looking at the subway station stops. We have 106th, 116th, 125th Street. You take, for example, up at 125th, if we're looking at those groups that we can work with, in addition to those already cited, such as our elected officials and the like, we have groups such as Uptown Grand Central that could be looped in at that station stop at 125th. And there are a whole host of others there. But the main thing I would like us to really be focused on is who can break out into these individual groups, knowing where we live, okay, and our expertise within those areas. So out of our current membership, for example, I live on 102nd, working with the members of the 106th Street stop is a natural fit for me, and also knowing a lot more people in that general area of the community. I'd like to know from our other members here of the committee, based on where you live, which station stop is closest to you first. So yes, Giselle, and then Jessica.
116.
Okay, 116th works very well for you. Okay, Jessica?
I'm also closest to 106, but happy to help however needed.
Okay, great. Okay, wonderful.
No, so how do I raise my hand on the phone? Do you know?
I do not
Star
recall.
6 or star 9. I can't.
That may be to mute and unmute.
Star
Yeah,
nine,
you
I
can
think
unmute
it's.
it, step 6. I'll try star 9. I don't want to keep jumping in like this.
No, it's fine, but jump in. You have the floor, Nelson.
Okay, so I'm close. I live at 109, so 106, or if there's something closer to 109, since I can't see, I'm on the phone.
Okay. So let me just write this down. You have, thanks, Jessica.
I'm writing it down. Xavier.
Oh, you are? Okay, great. Thank you so much. And then we have Giselle at 116th. Marissa, whereabouts are you, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm 116.
116. So that would be a more natural fit for you, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we have in that area. So we need to find, because not everyone is on this call from the group. We would like, I'd ideally like to identify a member of this task force who's close to 125th. And I believe, is it Jenny? Is Jenny Meyer?
Yes, she is.
Okay,
That's the reason that I actually have pinged her for this, because she's right on 125th and often comments on what's going on that block. So I
Okay.
imagine, I don't want to volunteer her, but I imagine she would be.
First time I've heard that used in actual a meeting, voluntold. I love it. Okay, so ideally it would be good, I think, as a natural fit, you know, where you are and Giselle are on 116th, that there'd be an opportunity to tag team between myself, Jessica, and Nilsa to hit the 106th with the working groups and connecting. Now, again, we have a whole list of CBOs that we will need to go through. And what I would ideally like for us to do is during now and September is to reach out to a list, various community-based organizations, the tenant associations that are in that area. You have, Angel, please remind me, I'm sorry, I'm at a loss of words, right near 106th and between 3rd and 2nd, the development over there.
Taft?
No, not Taft. It's where Leslie Colon lives.
Oh, yeah, no. You said development, so I'm thinking public housing.
Yeah,
Franklin Plaza.
Franklin Plaza. Thank you. So Franklin Plaza would be one we would engage because one of the exhaust towers, I believe, is supposed to be in that area. There are a lot of issues around parking. Thank you, Angel. Appreciate that. So that would be one particular group we would reach out to, as well as the local businesses. So if there is a bid in that general area or a group of organized business owners that would be willing to engage, that would be one of our many outreaches that we can do over the between now and September when we convene again. And again, these working groups can operate, and it's kind of like going away to do your homework assignment, collecting information, meeting with the individuals or collecting their input, and so we can bring it back to the greater whole and then assign how large do we want to make this group. Right now it is a community board led initiative, but it can expand to a larger collective, if you will. So those are so again, I'd like to see these 3 groups break out and start the outreach. Angel, do we have, and I tried to give you a call earlier today, and it's been gangbusters, I think, on both of our ends, but do we have a running list of CBOs and where they're near in relation to 125th, 116th, 106th to make this easier?
So not relative to like where they're located, but there is a list of all the community-based organizations on our website. I'll drop a link to that list.
Awesome, that'd be great. And then we can slowly work through that and start assigning per our station stops, reaching out. Now, any of the members of our task force that aren't here today, when we send out the minutes, we should organize, find out from our membership based on where they live in the neighborhood and saying like, hey, you're on this task force. Thank you very much for dropping the Airtable in there, Angel. And let me just open this up real quick. Get people reaching out. So for example, 106th Street, if there are several businesses right there along 2nd Avenue that you frequent, or even at 116th that you go to, just reaching out and say, hey, I'm from Community Board 11. We're working on our task force with Second Avenue Subway. We'd like to get you engaged with our working group, get input, concerns, and so we can be more engaged in holding the MTA accountable as they roll out the construction process. Okay, so there's that. Are there any questions? Marissa, I saw your hand up. I apologize. I didn't get to it fast enough.
No, it's okay. Okay.
Do you have a question or comment?
No. You kind of answered it just in regards to, how do you want us to go about reaching out, and what that looks like, so that everyone's not just scattered and just kind of like doing their own thing. So your response was helpful in that.
Okay. Okay, good. So, all right, that's it. Angel, is there anything you would like to add to this?
No. It's good so far.
Okay, so this is the initial process, and as my understanding, because it's not an official convening of the task force, but more of our breakout groups, we can do this individually and independently as long as we bring everything back to the table for our discussion. Correct, Angel?
Yes.
Okay, good. So what I would like, we have our groups. We're going to step away, look at the membership of our task force, and if we have any deficits with our membership at a particular station stop, we should look at a way that we can get better representation there. Meaning, if we have to add someone from the board to sit on the task force, or someone who can work on the working group, at least on a temporary basis, so we can collect all that information. So we have a bit of homework to walk away from. I've still not heard back from Valerie Mason, hoping everything's all right. I know she had a death in the family several weeks ago, but hopefully we'll hear back soon. Are there any questions or concern? Giselle, yes.
My question is, so let's say we independently go to, the CBOs or the neighboring businesses, and we present to them that we're a part of this new Second Avenue Task Force and we would like their, help, input. Is there like a list of questions that we should like maybe stick to, or should we just invite them to one of the Zoom meetings, or like, is there like a certain guideline you want us to, or just have a conversation with them?
So the initial outreach is to get their information, get their interest. So contact information or a point of contact, a person who would represent that group. So let me go right here. I'm just pulling up the Airtable, and I'm sorry, I was listening to you while I was looking at everything. Oh, God, hold on, misplaced the Airtable. There it is. So 125th Street. People you could reach out to if you're there representing. You have 1775 houses. You have AK houses. They're right near there. And those are, for example, 2 tenant associations you could reach out to, and the president ideally would act on behalf of that tenant association, or on behalf of the building as a whole. Also, 2 people that can be engaged if there is the landlord there. The landlord for those MSAK 1775 is Talprop. If they wanted to have a representative, again, reaching out to them, collecting, seeing what their interests are, concerns are, how we can work together, and say, we are rolling this out. We're going to set up. So it's an initial outreach. So touch point, collect the information. And if you have a positive response, then reach back out to the group, report back to the group via email, and then we can make a recommendation. If people are ready to rock and roll and get on with a meeting, we could schedule a working group meeting and have that initial conversation. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, great. Beverly, you had a question?
Yes, I'm looking at the list. I don't see, there's an organization on that's a handicap building on 126th Street, 145 East 126th Street. I don't see them listed on this list. And they will be directly affected by what's going on 125th Street also.
Angel.
So this is a list of community-based organizations. Typically, those are like nonprofits providing services. So if you're referring to a residence, it wouldn't be on this list.
All right,
But we have internal lists in the office that we can help provide the task force members to assist in their outreach.
oh, okay, because I know you mentioned 1775 and AK houses.
Yeah,
That's why I remember, you know, to bring them up.
yeah, that makes sense, what you would ask.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you for the question. Sorry.
Hey,
Dogs.
Xavier, I'm driving, but I just thought maybe
Yep.
we should also tap into the schools.
Yes.
You know, like I'm in a school, so I can use the parent coordinator in the school to tap into the families that live right in that area.
I absolutely love that idea. I love it. That's exactly, so if we could get, for example, on those station stops, parent coordinators, you know, if there's someone that well, let me ask you a question. Is there someone that would hit all three of those stops, one parent coordinator, or would it be exclusive to that?
No,
school?
you know, it's exclusive to the school, but you have to remember, parents don't only live within the blocks of the school, they live in the neighborhood.
Right.
So we might be able to tap into different stops. You know, maybe there's something we could do, like a short survey to just get people and, you know, help them fill it out. You know, I'm just thinking that way, and we should do a presentation with the CEC so that, you know, we reinforce that body, right? Because parents are the ones that are going to use it the most, dropping off kids to school, get back on the train and going to work, right?
Yep. No, I like that. So maybe a survey we present, one of us will present to the CEC to begin that engagement process.
And that, you know, not long, just a few questions to get people that, and, you know, boom.
Okay, I like that. I think that's something we can work on over the next couple of weeks or so to be able to roll out. But you would be able to get us connected with the initial parent coordinator, right, or a contact person.
Like, again, we can maybe, you know, and Angel knows Nancy as well. Maybe we can engage Nancy so that she engages all her parent coordinators. So Nancy is the director of all the parent coordinators in the district and works directly with the superintendent. So,
Oh, that
you know,
would
I
be
know
great.
my, you know, so.
I like that idea very much. That's great. So maybe we can get contacted with Nancy.
Yeah, and they have a meeting in August, you know, August 10th, I believe it is.
Okay.
So if we have anything by then, we can at least get it on the agenda. And, you know, me and Rosa, who, you know, Rosa's on the board as well.
Yeah.
She's the president of the CEC. So I think we can move that. And, you know, Rosa's all over the place. So.
No, but this would be something that could work as a multi-hat role as well. And she's very engaged, and I appreciate that. So I like that idea. So I think after this meeting, we can, Angel, if you and I could schedule a call to talk about what kind of survey questions, unless people have ideas right here and now of what that would be to add for the survey, other than you kind of run of the mill ones.
Can I suggest that maybe we do a Google Doc and have people add possible questions to the document? And that way we're not on the call just trying to figure it out, but, you know, kind of just putting everything together, and you already have that.
Yeah, that would be great. That'd be great. We can get a Google Doc started and put that in our little sandbox. And then start filling it out and just share the link. Angel, do we have a folder that could be set up for a Second Avenue Subway Task Force?
Yep, I'm gonna do it right now.
Awesome, great. Do you mind just starting up a quick Google Doc for survey questions, and then we can all add it at our leisure?
Sure.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Beverly, your hand up.
Yes, and my question is, can you let me know who are the task force members that's going to be dealing with the 125th Street area, because I'm closer to that area. And my other suggestion would it be okay to think about having a town hall meeting once we get all these tenants and people together, or, you know, get their information and do a town hall meeting, or would that be useful? Just some way, you know, issue.
I think my initial knee-jerk reaction is, once we have all our ducks in a row, that having a town hall would be fruitful for public engagement for the community we represent. I just want to make sure that, for lack of a better phrase, we don't come off half-cocked and misspeak, or don't have information, or someone may be attending and saying, hey, well, no, you didn't consult with us. And this has been a major concern for the past 15 years and yada. You follow what I'm saying, Bev?
Okay.
Yeah. So, but I like the idea of a town hall. I think having one would be great. Oh, we have our guest coming on. Yeah, with that, I think we have our homework set aside for us, and just in the nick of time, Valerie, appreciate for you joining us. I know everything is all helter-skelter these days. You've been going through that more than your fair share. You're muted, but I'm going to hand the baton off to you and just ask for you to take us on a journey of what the experience was for you as a community board member and your work with CB8 and phase 1 and lessons learned, I think.
Well, I think, can you hear me okay? Is that all right? Or
Yep.
Okay, great. First of all, thanks for having me. The journey was a long one, and actually it sort of brought me to Community Board 8, this project. I wasn't really that active in the community until this project came into being. We had a special Second Avenue Subway Task Force, just like you did, and the community was really involved in all aspects of the project. It was fairly, in the beginning, fairly contentious. And I think because it was a new project for everyone and we didn't know, nobody really knew what was going to happen. You know, we were digging holes into the ground. People hadn't done it before. A lot of, I'm not sure what the model that the MTA was using. And I'm not exactly sure at this phase of the project. It was still very unclear, even when the project was starting, whether parts of the buildings that they had identified as entrances were really even viable entrances. I'm not sure that's the case here, but there was a lot of uncertainty as to where the actual entrances were going to be. People were finding underground storage tanks in various places, and it led to a lot of, let's say, design on the move. You know, one of the most important things, I think, of the lessons learned is to really get everyone in the community involved in the project, meaning before the construction starts, it's really important for buildings along the way of the subway to take pictures of everything. You know, if you don't have a picture that shows that your sidewalk wasn't broken before the construction began, it's going to be very difficult for you to make any kinds of claims and work with the MTA to get compensation. We had a lot of underground blasting, and I think the MTA will admit there were, let's say, a lot of mishaps. Thankfully, no one was ever hurt, but a couple of times the blasting was a little bit, I don't know if the correct term is overboard, but there was a lot of that. We constantly, I think the MTA learned a lot by setting up different offices along the route and setting up small groups that people could meet in and have a real line of communication. So I think that was one of the big lessons learned, that, you know, the important thing is to have communication between the community and the MTA as the project unfolds, because, you know, New York City is built on some really heavy duty rock. And sometimes when the excavation begins, that's when, you know, you think you know everything, but it's what you don't know, what you think you know, that turns out not to be the reality. And so you have to be flexible, and you have to learn how to adapt. But you also have to know what you want too, I think, in terms of, you need to be able, the other thing is, how is this going to affect local businesses? When we were involved in the project, there wasn't a lot of support for local businesses, and the construction that goes up along the way really disrupts movement on the sidewalk, movement in the street, and businesses find themselves hidden for a lot of the construction. we made a concerted effort in our community to try to make sure that people were patronizing those businesses, trying to bring business to the community, to keep those businesses afloat. And I will say that today, most of them did survive. They did survive. And that was because we made that effort. And that was organized by the community board as well. It would be like Shop 2nd Avenue, Shop 72nd Street, Shop 86th Street, and really focusing on the businesses that were behind the netting and whatever. You know, look, there's going to be a lot of dust and a lot of noise and a lot of dirt and a lot of garbage and you won't even know how much garbage there's going to be. But these sand hogs that go underground, and I'm assuming it's going to be the same kind of construction, you will get up in the morning and you will see in the corner garbage cans, you know, tons of pizza boxes and, you know, all sorts of things. And, you know, garbage became a real problem because there were so many extra people. At one point, if you can believe this, and I'm sure you can, the city was going to remove the garbage cans from our corner because they were overflowing. And they said to stop that, they were going to remove the garbage cans so people wouldn't even attempt to put garbage in them. But it was a very long process. And I know it's just beginning, but you also have to be optimistic and look at it. What's going to happen? What's the neighborhood going to look like when it's over? And you have to start planning for the streetscape now, I think. You know, in the beginning, I thought it was really funny, but there would be people who would be coming to the meetings talking about how many trees were going to be lost and who was going to replace the trees and what, you know, but it turned out to be very important because you want the great access to the subway, but you also want restoration of the sidewalk, and you wanted to, you know, give back to the community in some way. So a lot of trees that had to be removed, we lost a lot of trees, but there was a real concerted effort to replant when the subway came back on, when it came online. I don't know if you really want me to keep talking or you want to ask me questions. I'm happy to answer them.
Okay, thank you very much for being in the space. And yeah, I've got some hands coming up, which is great. So I'm gonna open it up to questions because that'll be more helpful in the dialogue. And again, thank you for being here, Valerie.
Oh,
really
sure.
appreciate it. So Jessica and then Marissa. So Jessica.
Thank you, Valerie, so much for being here and for your experience that you're sharing with us through this process. It's going to be really helpful for us. I'm curious about the, you know, the sort of revitalization of the street through that process. And, you know, you mentioned the trees and the replanting of the trees. Were there any other elements that were able to be integrated into the street that were not there before? In your experience?
Yeah, we actually had a lot of placement of what is called street furniture, whether it was benches, bike racks, and there was a lot of community input about what would serve various streets different ways. But again, you know, you have to lobby for as much of it as you can get. We faced, you know, I don't want to say a lot of resistance because I don't want to be that negative, but it was definitely a push and pull of, you know, you got so many trees and how do we get more, and how many trees are being taken down, and are we going to get more than we're actually taken down? Also placement of street lighting, both during the construction and post-construction. And the other thing to think about as well is what's going to happen to your bus service during the construction. We're still fighting a fight on 72nd Street. We lost our express bus stop when the construction began, and they put in SBS. And even though the plans for the reopened subway and the streetscape showed a bus stop right in front of the 72nd Street and 2nd Avenue station, we did not get an SBS stop there. And as recently as our last transportation committee meeting 2 days ago, we're still fighting in New York City Transit to get the stop. So those are things to think about as well. How are you going to move around while this construction is happening? Ours was almost 10 years.
Wow. So that's a lot of good information there. Next is Marissa Mack, your question.
Yes, hi, Valerie. Thank you so much for presenting and sharing some of the lessons learned and things for us to look out for. So I think in listening to you, there were a couple things that I heard that we probably also need to do, and I'm wondering who you engaged with. But we probably need to also speak with some city agencies, right, who will be good in terms of just ensuring that some of the things that we need are going to be covered. So for instance, you mentioned the trash situation. The city is already having a situation with trash pickup and what our areas look like. And so I'm imagining that that's something that we probably need to get ahead of before that happens, right? And speak to them. And then also to your other point about transportation, then we also need to connect with DOT and what that looks like, as they're working, right? Like, what does that look like for bus service and lighting and other areas? So just wondering for you, what were the primary city agencies that you worked with or you think you should have worked with that we probably need to contact and say, like, look, we in addition to MTA, we're also going to need your hands and your effort to ensure that the streets and businesses are okay while this happens.
Yeah, well, I think, and I think this is part of the lessons learned. As the project progressed, they basically broke us up into the different stations. And so there would be smaller meeting groups. But the community board really acted sort of as a clearinghouse for people to come every month to say what was happening. I mean, there was a lot of things about picking of tiles for inside the station, and they would, MTA would make a lot of presentations, they would listen. But yeah, you need parks, for the trees, you need DOT for street furniture, you need sanitation, but you also need a very active, I think, interaction with your electeds. I think that they can be very helpful. I know that during our fight, we particularly, the MTA had, in the beginning, wanted to put a mid-block station on 72nd Street. And we thought that was the stupidest idea known to mankind. And the reason that it was coming about was because even though they had said that the entrance was going to be on the corner, no one ever had gone into the building on the corner to see if they could get in there, how deep they could go, what did the electrical look like. They really had no idea. When they finally got in the building, and a lot of the buildings fought the MTA and didn't give them access, when they finally got in there, they realized that it was an untenable build. And so they were going to put this, what we call 2 hockey goals together, to have a station right in the middle of the mid-block, which was going to be really dangerous for a lot of reasons, and didn't make sense really to have the entrance to the 2nd Avenue subway almost closer to 1st Avenue in the middle of a block. But so, I think, and this community board really acted as an important clearinghouse for the community to come in and keep everybody honest, if you will, about what was going on. And I think it's actually a really good project to get people to get engaged with the community board that maybe have never been engaged before. Because there are various groups, and they're going to have different issues. You're going to have your small business issues. You're going to have just regular transportation issues, again, lighting issues, and people living in construction. And, for most people, this is going to be something that they've never experienced before, and hopefully never experience again. But you have to go through it. I mean, we were having all sorts of blasting. We put on our building a special monitor because, we didn't really trust the MTA to know, how bad the building was shaking. So we had monitors in place. And we really went through our building, taking all sorts of pictures, especially in the basement. Because, you just can't even believe the size of the blasts. And, the whole building would shake.
I
And
imagine that would also be connected to insurance. And I don't want to monopolize the conversation, so I'm passing it on. But I imagine too that has to do with, the area being named on insurance and anything that happens in that place. But thank you so much. I think for us, we would definitely want to connect with our agencies once we break out into the groups that are directly connected with those groups, and then see how they would also be able to assist in terms of helping with our segmented area. So thank you. Thanks so much.
sure thing, sure.
Thank you, Marissa. I thank you for the question. We have a member of our public here. I'm gonna allow a question just to reintroduce those that came a little late, and Angel responded in the message. Is that there was a little mistake on the newsletter, but on our calendar, if you go to cb11m.org/calendar, it will always be accurate there. There's a little typo, but thank you for being here. And someone who I know and her family very well, Leslie Colon. Again, we have with us a guest, Valerie Mason from CB8. So you had a question real quick.
Yes, good evening. My name is Leslie Colon. I represent Franklin Plaza Apartments. And currently there is a situation that the train is going to be traveling under significant buildings within the complex. And one area that I'm highly concerned about is the 108th Street and 2nd Avenue exit. It's supposed to be an alternative exit from the main exit on 106th Street, which has been sanctioned. The area is available and it's been sanctioned for the exit, the primary exit. The second exit is right within maybe 25 feet of our gas treatment plant. And I'm very concerned about that because it's above ground, so it's very accessible. You can shoot a gun at it, you can throw a bomb at it. So what is to say, with the train station being there, that we cannot be targeted for something like that? I have suggested numerous times, there is an opening between 108 and 109 that can have the same access and egress to the train station as the train station on 72nd Street and 2nd Avenue, that has a ventilation system and an entrance.
Mhm.
Is that possible that it can be looked at and analyzed?
Well, I don't know the particulars, Leslie, but it sounds like you do. I mean, I think that that's something that you should definitely try to have a smaller meeting with the MTA, and again, engage the electeds to see if there's an alternative, because safety is a concern. And you're right, when you have these they're just like they're not entrance, but they're just power stations. What are they really going to be like? How much noise is going to come out of them? And there are safety concerns. So I think that's a valid one to bring up with the MTA. And I would assume that, you do have liaisons that you can bring that up with. But at this point in the project, I think that's really appropriate, because if there is an alternative place that would be safer, it's something for the community to advocate for. And I wouldn't just take no for an answer in the beginning either. They told us we would never move the mid-block entrance away from the mid-block, but if you come to 72nd Street, you'll see 5 elevators on one side and an escalator, and you don't see a mid-block entrance. So everything is possible.
Well, I have been bringing it up. I'm sorry, I have been bringing it up numerous times, even when they had the station on 125th Street, to let people know what was going on. So a lot of the electives do know my position and my passion to this train station, because it's going to disrupt a lot of elderly people's quality of life in this community, especially in this complex.
Yeah, yeah.
I think, and to that point about advocacy, actually, real quick aside, Leslie, we had talked before you joined us, breaking out into our station stops of 106th, 116th, 125th. And we want to, myself, Jessica, and Nilsa are all that's closest to us. And we wanted to reach out to Franklin Plaza to have you participate in our working groups as part of the station stops working groups. So I'll be reaching out to you and to the TA Association. Okay.
Okay, there's also another stop. They can go on 105th. That's an empty spot. 105th and 2nd Avenue on the southeast side.
No, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate the recommendation. So I myself, Nilsa, Jessica will be reaching out to you because we're going to be forming that working group there. And Valerie, I think you mentioned there was pushback at one point when they reduced the amount of accessibility points at a couple of station stops. Is that right? If I recall from our.
Yeah, I mean,
There was
that's
pushback.
another issue. Well, accessibility for disabled people is a real issue in the subway, has been for many years. And even though there is a real push for more accessibility, we were lucky that we got the 5 elevators, and that really wasn't because everybody was thinking about disabled people. It was because there was no other way to use that corner to move people very quickly. But apparently there's really just the minimum of 1 ADA elevator at every station. And so they haven't really done a lot to, everybody does the bare minimum and not more than that. But I think it's something, we, especially on the Upper East Side where I am, there are a lot of elderly people and access is a real issue. And so if you can put pressure on them to maybe do more, because I mean, they claimed, oh, we're these escalators. I mean, the escalators still aren't really working properly. It's a different vendor than the one they originally contracted with. But you always need more than you think and more than the MTA tells you in terms of access, because I think anybody who uses the queue where we are right now can go to 86th Street, 72nd Street and 90 and there's always at least 1 elevator out or 1 escalator out. We had that issue very recently. And even though they said these were going to be different escalators than the ones that you find at 42nd Street, that they all break. So
That's informative. Thank you. Are there any other questions from our task force or members of the public? Just looking.
I have one.
Okay, Leslie.
Because 2nd Avenue is so close to the East River, FDR, will they make storm doors or storm paneling in case we have another superstorm Sandy and these new train tracks and underground tunnels will be secured in case of such environmental disaster we'll have again?
I mean, that's a tough one. I mean, Val.
I mean, look, they have the geological maps. Where 2nd Avenue, where I am, I mean, we have the deepest station in the whole entire subway system. I mean, that's why it takes so long to get down there. It's actually a very quick ride on the elevators. I was one of those people who thought I would never take the elevator, and I take the elevator all the time over the escalator across the street. It's really quick and it's really fast. And since there are 5 of them, there's usually 2 or 3 working. But in terms of the question about flooding, I mean, there are underground streams everywhere, but during Superstorm Sandy, the 2nd Avenue subway was really very well protected. And I think the way that they are doing the new stations, they're very cognizant of that. So I would give them positive points for that. I think they're thinking about it. If it was 1st Avenue or York Avenue, I think you might have more concern. But I think 2nd Avenue, I mean, it's almost like London during World War II. It's a really good place to hide.
Yeah. No, thank you, Leslie. That's a good question. And I think if memory serves, we have a lot of existing tunnel structure here in our neighborhood, which I don't believe phase 1 had. Whereas we have that existing infrastructure that we're having to connect those points along.
Oh, right. Yes.
But I do think it's a very It's a very valid point. I appreciate bringing that up, Leslie. And I think that's something that we can definitely present to them and ask, what preventative steps will be in place. And also, and earlier, Leslie, one of the things that we did discuss, and I wasn't sure if you logged in, but just all the members of the public and even our board members, is that Val said, document everything, take pictures of your foundation, any little crack in the edifice, anything you have to document in advance. And I think that's something as our working groups and spreading the word. And I love the term clearinghouse. Thank you very much for that. Getting that message out because we don't have, I think in general, as a general statement, the financial resources to lawyer up in the case of things going south. And I think that's having that physical evidence is the first part of the battle.
Oh yeah, I mean, everybody has a phone now. So you see it, you take a picture of it. We had a lot of buildings that maybe didn't have structural damage, but there was a lot of construction equipment that was literally parked on the sidewalk, really heavy equipment that cracked the sidewalk eventually. And it became a real battle later on, but the pictures really told the story. So you're right. You can't lawyer up and they can fight you forever, but if one picture literally worth 1,000 words. So
that's great. Thank you, Val. I'm not seeing any more questions. And again, just to be considerate everyone's time, including you as our guest here. I hope if there are any follow-ups, we could send you an email.
Oh yeah, I'd love that. And happy to be as much help as I can be. And just in closing, just stay positive. And it's a long road. It's a long road. But I will say this, not to be too corny about it, but there is light at the end of the tunnel. And we love our subway now. I mean, usually, nobody could get to the west side. Now you're over there in 10 minutes. So it is really worth it. And so we're happy to share as much as we can with you guys. And we wish you very good luck.
No,
Thanks for having me.
No, thank you, Valerie, for being here. Stay safe. Enjoy the rest of your summer.
You too. Take care. Bye-bye.
Right.
Good night.
All right. Night. Marissa, yes.
Just a quick question before we wrap. So when do you want us to kind of reach out and what's our timeline?
Well, yeah, I was just about to do that. So we're going to go through and see which members of our committee were not here, our task force that were not here, and assign the station stops we've already addressed. And I'll recap real quick. We have, I know at 125th, Jen Myers is over there. I see she logged in. Beverly Pavon, I think, is close to that area. So if she's willing to jump in and volunteer in that space as well, that would be helpful. Marissa and Giselle at 116th, myself, Jess, and Nilsa are at 106th. Angel has created within our Google Drive. I'll get to you in just a moment, Bev, bear with me. Our little sandbox. He's going to get the Google Doc going so we can work on our initial survey. Put in your questions that you think you want to ask. We'll go in, we'll refine it a bit. The initial phase is to reach out to just get the contact information. So case in point, thank you, Leslie, for being in the space with us. One of us will reach out to you and have that initial point of contact. Who's going to be running point for Franklin Plaza? We're going to reach out to the surrounding businesses, find out if there is a bid. We've been working and advocating for bids in this neighborhood, but if there's not, the surrounding businesses love the idea about supporting our Second Avenue subway businesses, especially when it comes to the construction phase and all the netting and protective infrastructure they put in place. And I know Carrie King at Uptown Grand Central is great for pushing out the cash mobs. That was a great recommendation. Love that. So again, connect with those, get that information. I would say let me grab my calendar real quick. Today is July 14th. I would say within a month from now, we could have, and again, this is something we can put, and I would recommend each person running point on the working group, and both you create another doc to collate your notes. So there will be 106th Street Google Doc, 116th Street Google Doc, and 125th Street Google Doc. Putting all that information from points of contact, who you met with, their phone number, And then that way and what was discussed and whether or not they're willing to engage. And we start putting all that information together there. So hopefully by August, and we'll see where we are with the EO and whether or not we're still able to meet virtually. I would say by the end of the week of August 12th. So 1 month from now, by the 15th, 16th, if we can have points of contact made and initiated, and if people are already expressing concerns and ready to be involved, then that's great. But please keep the group informed and document everything in the Google Drive so we can bring it back to the task force when we meet again publicly. Yeah, so that's what I would say is our kind of timeline there. Beverly, you had a question?
Yes, and I'd like to say, yes, I would like to be part of the task force and help with the 125th Street stop station work group. My question was, darn it, I forgot it. It's been a long day.
Okay, well, if you remember, you can chime in.
All right.
So that is the initial. Angel, is there anything you'd like to add? And real quick, David, please connect us. I know you said you were connected with Nancy, and maybe we get Rosa involved. When do they meet in August? Could you remind me again?
What day is, August 10th, I believe it is. It's
Okay.
the second Wednesday of the month.
If you would kindly make that introduction,
Sure.
so we're all on the same page and say, hey, we definitely, and maybe one of us can go and present and explain what's going on, and to get the parent coordinator involved for the schools, and especially so we can really coalesce around those issues there and what they're experiencing or what they hope to experience. Again, the reality is it's such a long project that their kids may be out of school in that area by that point in time, but they may have younger kids who are going to come through.
Tomorrow we have a meeting with the superintendent. Nancy will be there as well. So, I'll bring it through the whole round. Rosa's there as well. So we'll all be in the same space. Okay.
Great. Wonderful. You could do that and just drop it into the Google Drive, what your notes are, or send an email.
Okay.
Fine, and we can drop
Sounds
it in.
good.
We can keep tabs. And guys, please use your Google Drive. It helps a lot. And keeping tabs on things. And not everyone gets to use it. Marissa, you had your hand up. Coming back to you.
Yes, one more thing, sorry, and I'm happy to help with this. Do we want to possibly have a flyer that we could hand out at like the night out event, and maybe, if we're also going to partner and table for like a back to school event, that we could give to, or do we not? I guess that might be too, never mind, I'm scaling that back because I think we just need to do groups first before we just engage the community. So I'm taking back that.
No, I love the idea though. I think going from the station, that's like a precursor to the town hall, I would say.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No. That's too much right now. But happy when we do get to that point, happy to help. But yeah, I think that's too much right now. But yeah.
Yeah, but I like the idea. We're putting the pieces, the dominoes in order. So I love it. Real quick, hold on. I'm just trying to. Leslie, you had a question?
Yes, I just wanted to be added to the task force of 106th Street.
Yeah, so that'll be a working group. So yes,
Yes.
you will be. I'll be reaching out to you. And if there's anyone else from Franklin Plaza that would also sit on that working group who, when you cannot be there, if you could identify that person by the time we reconnect with you to have our first working group meeting. Okay.
Okay, I'm also going to see if I can get the original blueprints of Franklin Plaza, the original.
That would be fantastic. And please, and also to put this on your to-do list to get us in contact with the building management / landlords, or like all those entities, so that we can loop them in as well, because they would know as the finer details, which would be helpful for documentation to preserve our buildings.
Okay, you want the management company or the property?
Yeah, we'll start with it from there. That'll be great.
Okay, I'll let them know.
Okay, está bien. Thank you. Okay, Beverly, is that an old hand?
No, this is actually when Valerie was speaking about the blasting of the for the groundwork. I meant to ask her, does she know how many buildings in the radius did it affect? I know it's going to affect the ones that's right there, but how far did that blast affect the other buildings in a radius form?
I don't know, but I could follow up with Val. She's not logged off the meeting now.
Oh, okay, yeah, because that would be great to know if we have to get contact to other buildings that's a little further away, but will be affected by the blasting of the ground that, for this project.
Okay, what I'll do, you heard what she said. She's willing to stay engaged and help us out in any way. We'll follow up with a quick email and ask her what the impact from the radius of impact from the blast.
Yes, thank you.
No, great question. Thank you. Okay, hope you all feel as productive a meeting as I do. I really feel like we got into the weeds a bit, and I like that. So if there are no other questions, and Angel, is there anything you want to add?
I'm good.
All good. Okay. With that, I want to thank you all for being here at our first Second Avenue Subway Task Force. And we will, if you have any questions about outreach or whatnot, reach out to myself, Jessica, Angel. We can kind of guide you through that, and let's get to it. So with that, I'd like to call the roll for and then adjourn.
Giselle. Xavier.
Present. Here.
Stephanie.
Present.
Jessica.
Present.
Jennifer.
Present.
David.
Present.
Nelsa.
Present.
Okay, of course.
Okay, great. Thank you, everyone. I know it's a long haul. Enjoy the rest of your summer. Reach out. If you have any questions, always accessible. Stay safe and talk to you
Thank
soon.
you.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Have a great summer, everyone.